Forward. Forward. Forward.
Fall in.
Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. Y'all know what it is. This is your boy Trey, and you rocking with your favorite Nets vets on the net. First Formation Morning Sports Talk. So come in and fall in as we get to talk about the sports that went over the last couple of days, last 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever the news is. We're here to talk about it. So I hope y'all enjoying y'all week. It's a Friday. Some of y'all ain't got no jobs because you're retired. Y'all ain't got nothing to do. So pull up, tap in, fall in. Get it how you used to get. You ain't got to salute. We here for it. So, like I said, Friday. I hope y'all got some great stuff planned for this weekend. As we know, as we continue on to look at it, a lot of stuff going on. You got games continue on as the Military Basketball Association continues to finish up their season, getting ready for their postseason. You got the National Military Basketball Tournament Committee has went forth, sent out the invites, and getting that ready to happen. You got the NBA last couple of days going down, last couple of weeks, less than 10 games left in the season with a lot of races going on. Everyone's trying to get to it. You got the XFL is competing. USFL is just a couple of weeks from their start for their second season. The NFL is going through their free agency team, still buying and trying to pick up people to put them in position as they get ready next month, to do their NFL draft and continue on to the beginning of the season. You got the MLB Major League Baseball is getting ready to start their season up currently in the spring season. They're getting ready to tap in a bit. So it's nothing but sports. NHL is going on. They're getting ready to fall into the Stanley Cup playoffs. So it's a whole vibe. It's nothing you can't miss out for the most part when it comes down to military. When it comes down to it. So in any case, let's get into it when you're talking about the NCAA March Madness. So, first and foremost, going forth, you have the FA. We have a couple of teams that tapped in last night, had games last night, competing in what to punch a ticket to what is to be the men's Final Four. Four teams played last night. Basically, the East region and the West region had their games. The winner of each game will punch their ticket to the Elite Eight, going on to continue on for their looking at getting into the Final Four game for opportunity to compete for the national championship for this year. Of course, when you look at it, FAU faced off against the University of Tennessee. That was a 9 seed versus a 4 seed, and then Kansas State matched with Michigan State, a 7 versus the 3 seed. When it was all done, FAU had took care of business against University of Tennessee by the score of 62-55, with them moving on as the 9th seed. Currently, Cinderella, depending on what goes on tonight, to face off against the 3rd seeded Kansas State Wildcats, who knocked off 7th ranked Michigan State by the score of 98-93. On the opposite side of the bracket, just across the street from them, the UConn Huskies faced off against the Arkansas Razorbacks. That was the 4th seeded UConn against the 8th seeded Arkansas. Arkansas trying to continue their track to get into the Elite Eight, but they fell just a little short. UConn came out blistering, big man problems, 88-65. They will match up against the winner of the Good Morning. What's going on, Lasanne? Glad to have your formation this morning. Hope everything is going well for you. They continue on as they matched up. We'll match up with the winner of the Gonzaga and TCU game. I mean UCLA. I'm sorry, TCU was already taken care of by Gonzaga. Gonzaga pulls up against UCLA, 2-3 in the West, and it wasn't a disappointment. I watched the last couple of minutes of this game, in which I'm a huge Jaime Jaquez fan. I wish he can say come up in the purple and gold. We'll see how that happens. See if the scouts has been doing their business. But in any case, that was a hell of a game. Timmy, Timmy, Mr. Mustache, 36 points in the game. Jaquez contributed 29 points. Coming down the stretch, it was UCLA was up. Gonzaga walks back. You turn around and look, UCLA down by 8. Next thing you know, you blink, 2 minutes left. UCLA is down. You blink again, 20 seconds. UCLA is up by, well, actually less than that. At one point, you basically in the last 10 seconds, there was a couple of score changes. UCLA ends up going up by 1 point with I think 10 or 12 seconds left or something like that. Gonzaga calls a timeout. Timeout comes down. Strother from Gonzaga gets a backwards pass. He pulls up from about 37, 38 feet just onto the S in the March Madness with I think with 7 seconds left. Pulls up, knocks down a 3-pointer, ends up 1.2 seconds left, 1.1 seconds left on the clock. UCLA has an opportunity to get the ball. Actually, I stand corrected. It was 7 seconds left. Gonzaga ends up getting the ball back in the scrum and everything like that. The player misses one free throw, misses the first free throw, makes the second one. UCLA gets the ball and tries to do a last ditch effort where they gave it to their big man at midcourt. He kicks it out to their point guard, Tiger. Tiger Mitchell, and he has an ill-fated attempt at I guess you can say a 35-footer, and UCLA ends up going down to Gonzaga by the score of 79 to 76. The Gonzaga Bulldogs punch their ticket to yet another Elite Eight appearance. UCLA goes home. What's going on, Kamith? It is Friday indeed. Hope you're enjoying your day. Going to make the most of your Friday as well as the weekend. Glad to have your information with us this morning. So, when you look at it currently, Elite Eights participants looking: UConn, 4th ranked UConn, 3rd ranked Gonzaga, 9th ranked FAU, 3rd ranked Kansas State. Of course, the other participants in the Elite Eight will be tapping in tonight. You have number 1 Alabama facing off against number 5 San Diego State, number 6 Creighton to do battle with number 15 Princeton, number 2 Texas, University of Texas, to face off against number 3 Xavier, and last but not least, the other one of 2 number 1 seeds in the tournament still, men's tournament that is, University of Houston to face off against University of Florida. That is number 1 versus number 6, all vying for their opportunity to punch the ticket to their Elite Eight competition games. So it's going down this weekend. We'll see it. We'll know. We'll know later on today. Let me see. Make sure. Today is tomorrow. I'm sorry. We'll know tomorrow who is, what is, and what will be as they go and compete tonight. Then on tomorrow, we'll get the Elite Eight teams that will play one another. And then we'll wait for the Final Four tournament to conclude on the 1st and the 3rd of April. So a lot to be said, of course. Next, by the time we come back on Monday, we'll be talking about what happened in the men's and the women's for that most part. As we know, the women's are just scheduled to get cracking, I think today or tomorrow. Today and tomorrow, so we can get into what that's going to be. Of course, we already know everyone's probably got their best bets on the women of South Carolina, them Gamecocks, but you never know. Someone might run into a buzzsaw. We can see what that ends up coming out or what that looks like. But be sure to tune in to that NBA action. Moving on into the NBA action. 4 games last night. Some had a little implication, maybe caused a little movement here and there in the East and the West conference games. First and foremost, before we get into the scores, then we'll do go into a backdrop on some of the things. So, of course, yesterday, like I said, 4 games played. Might have had a little of movement when it comes down to the playoffs. Ultimately, we'll get to it, of course. First and foremost, the New York Knicks faced off against the Orlando Magic, in which was a game which Knicks you would think should have won. It didn't go as expected. The Knicks go down to the Orlando Magic by the score of 106-111. The Knicks led by Emmanuel Quickley's 25 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, as well as 25 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists from Quentin Grimes, 23 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists from Julius Randle. RJ Barrett contributed with 10 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. Mitchell Robinson, 2 points, but 12 rebounds on the night. 7 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists from Josh Hart, 5 points from Obi Toppin. Isaiah Harrison contributed with 6 points, and then lastly, Miles McBride, 6 points and 1 assist. For the Magic, they were led by Paolo Bancheros, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. 18 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist from Cole Anthony. 16 points apiece from Franz Wagner and Wendell Carter. Carter, 8 rebounds to go along with that. Franz, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 assists on the night. Gary Harris, 9 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. Caleb Houston, 8 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. And lastly, Moritz Wagner with 11 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists on the night. Like we said, counting it up, 106-111 in favor of the Orlando Magic. Currently sitting at 31-43 on the year. Excuse me. The New York Knicks get into it, 42-33. Still falling. They got to right that ship. I think they are kind of good when you think about it for it, because the East battles are different than the West battles. But with 8 games remaining, you got to kind of like lock in and get their footing, or they find themselves on the outside looking in. Additional other game last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers were hosted by the Brooklyn Nets, in which the Nets just barely dropped the dub as they lose to the Cleveland Cavaliers by the score of 116-114. In their losing effort, the Brooklyn Nets was led by Mikal Bridges, 32.6 rebounds and 1 assist. 25 points, 4 rebounds, 12 assists from Spencer Dinwiddie. 15 points, 3 rebounds, Joe Harris. Nick Claxton, 11 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. And then it kind of fell off from there. Dorian Finney-Smith, 4 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. Although it is helpful. Cameron Johnson, 5 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. 6 points from Duron Sharp. Yuta Watanabe, 4 points, 1 rebounds, 2 assists. Seth Curry, 1 assist on the night, although he's played very sparingly, only 6 points on the 6 minutes on the night. The Cavaliers, 26 points, 16 rebounds, 3 assists, dropped by Evan Mobley. 31.6 rebounds, 1 assist, Donovan Mitchell. 10 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, Jared Allen as he's back in play. Karis LeVert, 12 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. C.D. Osman, 8 points, 2 rebounds, 3 points, 1 rebound from Lamar Stevens. Isaac Oroko, 11 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. And Garland, 13 points, 1 rebound, 8 assists. As that was what was able to lead to the W. Just all around efforts. With the dub, Cleveland Cavaliers moved to 47-28 on the season. The Brooklyn Nets 39-34. When you look at it, still falling is the term. They got to get it right, or it's going to be a long summer for them. Even though they could get into the play-in, but no one wants to be in the play-in to play that extra game, or just looking at the fact that your whole fate of being in the playoffs rests on yet 1 or 2 games. It can be a little nerve-wracking, I'm sure. Another game that kicked off last night, one in which I was hoping would go in the way of the Hornets. If you blink your eyes and clap your feet, that is not what you get, though you do get a defeat. That is the New Orleans Pelicans were able to defeat the Charlotte Hornets by the score of 115-96. The Charlotte Hornets was led by 18 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists from P.J. Washington, 15 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists from Maka Haluk, 9 points apiece, Nick Richards and JT Thor, 12 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists from Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and Bryce McGowens, 8 points, 1 rebound, 6 assists. But the Pelicans blistering at this point with an onslaught of points, 30 points from Brandon Ingram as he drops a triple-double, 11 rebounds, 10 assists to go along with that 30-piece. 20 points apiece from Jonas Valanciunas, as well as CJ McCollum. 20 points, 19 rebounds, 3 assists. Keep your eye on Jonas. 20 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists for CJ McCollum. 16 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists from Najee Marshall. 3 points from Richardson, 2 from Dyson Daniel, 3 points from Garrett Temple, as well as 19 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist from Trey Murphy III. All for a W, keeping the New Orleans Pelicans in the mix, just a half game under 500. Correction, just a game under 500 at 36-37 with the win. Charlotte Hornets already out. Just continue to play with the loss 23-51 on the season with just 8 games remaining. Still opportunity for them to at least get to 30. They would have to go on a 7-game win streak. But it's possible. We'll see. End up with being there over under. And last but not least, last night's last game, the OKC Thunder faced off with the Los Angeles Clippers. Clippers is a home team holding home court. Were able to take care of business, knocking off the Oklahoma City Thunders by 22 points. Didn't want to see that. Kawhi Leonard led the field, 32 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 24 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists from Russell Westbrook, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists from Nahshon Bones Highland, 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists from Terrence Mann, 12 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, Nicholas Batum, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists from Eric Gordon, Ivica Zubac, 6 points, 10 rebounds, 1 assist. Marcus Morris Sr., 6 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 7 points, 1 assist for Robert Covington, as that, when you add it up, eclipses the OKC Thunder's 105. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led 30 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists on the night. Josh Giddey led 8 was up next, 13 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 16 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists from Jalen Williams, 9 points from Monsang Dang. Aaron Wiggins, 3 points, 4 points from Robinson Earl, 5 points from Trey Mann, 3 for Oliver Sarr, 8 points Jalen Williams again, Lindsey Ward at 36 points, but it wasn't enough. They wasn't competitive on this night in what is a huge Western Conference battle. The Clippers were able to get it done, going up 39-35 in their standing, just 4 games above 500, which is pretty good in the West for to kind of like be safe. OKC City drops to 36-37 with their loss. Of course, that putting them in. Let's take a look real quick. That putting them in dismal standings. First and foremost, let's tap in with the East. As we already know, 3 teams have already solidified their spot in the playoffs, as the Bucks, Celtics, and 76ers sit firmly, already clinching playoff spots. Currently, the Celtics six just 2.5 games back from Milwaukee, with the 76ers hard on the heels too at 3 games back with roughly 9 to 8 games remaining. The Cavaliers in the 4th seed, the Knicks sitting in the 5th seed. Currently, the Cavaliers are just 5 games ahead of the New York Knicks, and which is getting kind of tight. Soon, I guess New York is going to solidify their position in that 4th seed. Behind the Knicks in the 6th seed, the Miami Heat, who are just a game and a half back. Correction, 2.5 games. Game and a half back from the Knicks for that 5th seed, kind of like climb up and get out of Dodge. The Brooklyn Nets currently a half game. Good morning. What's going on, Mr. Richardson? Glad to see you formation with us this morning. The Nets just sitting at the 7th seed, in the 7th seed, just a half game behind the Heat. Hawks at the 8th seed, 9th, the Raptors, and 10, the Bulls, sitting a game and a half ahead of the Pacers in the 11th spot. So I guess you could kind of say that they're kind of good to go. But of course, we'll be looking to see how that ends up going about. For the East, for the West, things are completely different. Currently, the Nuggets sit 3.5 games ahead of the Grizzlies. We know the Grizzlies are back. Getting Ja Morant back into the fold might make a difference. They held steadfast while he was gone. Now that he's back, looking to play his way back into the starting lineup, things might change a little bit, which is worse for the Kings than it is for the Grizzlies, as the Kings sit just 2 games behind the Grizzlies for that second spot in the West. The Suns come in at number 4, holding on to the 4th seed. Clippers at number 5, just actually tied with the Suns for that what could potentially be the 5th seed if things fall in their way. The Golden State Warriors sit a game and a half behind. Correction, just 1 game behind the Clippers and the Suns for that 4th seed. So that's a potential play in. And then you have the Timberwolves, who sit at the 7th seed, currently a game behind the Warriors, just 2 games behind the Phoenix Suns. The Mavericks keep falling, barely holding on. They are currently in the 8th seed, just 3 games, 2.5 games, correction, 3.5 games behind the Phoenix Suns for the 4th spot. But what is more attainable, they sit a game and a half behind the behind the Warriors to get into that 6th spot. Right now, the 6 for 7 through 10, of course, actually 7 through 12 is a safe bet, maybe even 13. Currently, those teams sit chasing the 6th spot. Warriors, Mavericks, like I said, just a game and a half out from the Warriors. The Pelicans, just a game and a half out from the Warriors. The Lakers, just a game and a half out for the Warriors, as they all sit. Hey, even the OKC Thunder is a game and a half out from the Warriors. Utah Jazz at the 12th seed is 2 games out for the Warriors. So much more to come about, depending on how teams tend to fall over the course of the last couple of days of the season. In which tonight we got a bevy of games tonight, 12 games on the slate that all have some implications, of course, because win or loss and it's done. Of course, the Indiana Pacers will be hosted by the Boston Celtics in Beantown. Of course, that's going to sit up and be because it's not even though the expectation is that the Boston Celtics will get the dub, it's against the Pacers. Old rivalries. We'll see how that goes. The Washington Wizards face off with the and San Antonio Spurs in Washington. Eh, do we really matter? The Toronto Raptors vying to keep their spot face off against the Detroit Pistons. The Memphis Grizzlies have hosting duties as they would take on the Houston Rockets tonight. We will see how that goes with the Rockets. Potentially may pull an upset, may slip and do anything, but it's less than likely. The Dallas Mavericks will be hosting the Charlotte Hornets, who was just taken care of by the Oklahoma City Thunder. Do we see a situation where the Hornets snap back to hold off the Mavericks, making it harder for them to solidify a position in the play-in, let alone the playoffs? Or does Mavericks take care of business as they should and walk away with a dub? Of course, you have the Utah Jazz hosting the Milwaukee Bucks. A little bit harder for them as they look to try to get their footing to climb back into the Western Conference playoff picture. Just sitting on the outside, a loss can be detrimental to them, especially if every other team wins. The Golden State Warriors play home host to the 76ers. We know the Warriors are pretty dominant when it comes to playing on their home floor. So we look to see how that's going to turn out. The Warriors, of course, need to continue to get W's to keep every team below them off them. So that's going to be a game to keep an eye on. The Chicago Bulls will be traveling to Portland Trailblazers. Trailblazers just on the cusp, a couple of losses, and we can basically say that Dame Dash is probably going to be pulling up and doing concerts in Cancun. A couple of wins, he can extend his opportunity to get into the playoffs. So we'll see how that goes. Last two games of the night, of course, the Phoenix Suns and the Sacramento Kings. Kings not really in dire straits of getting a dub, although it helps them to keep pace with especially if Memphis loses. But if not, if the Suns lose, that's a completely different story. So we have to continue to look up on that. And lastly, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Los Angeles Lakers, as the Lakers look to notch another win, their third in a row, playing against the second OKC Thunder, who have been a thorn in their side. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just spoke the other day saying he's not a fan of LeBron's game, adding a little fuel to the fire. Unfortunately, LeBron isn't playing. Expectation is LeBron's not going to probably be back to the last week of the regular season, which puts him in play to get a 3-game tune-up before even one having to play in the playoff play-in, or two having to play in the playoffs in general. Expectation is that it shouldn't be a situation to where they're not playing at all, especially with the players like Austin Reeves and Malik Beasley basically coming on very strong. Anthony Davis is being able to play. D'Angelo Russell being able to play. They have the tools to continue to win without LeBron to keep the seats warm and get into a potential playoff, giving him a more of opportunity to rest or get a little more rest in before they start their the playoffs. So a lot of games that can make a lot of differences. We can come Saturday, come Sunday, or come Monday and see a whole different type of lineup or for potentials in the West. As a lot of teams play, Lakers played 2 times this weekend between Friday and Sunday. The Mavericks played twice. The Clippers play once. Golden State plays 3 times this week. So a whole lot of difference going on. A whole lot of difference makers going out there. So I'm here for it. We'll be able to talk about it for the most part. Where are we at? So, like I said, potentially LeBron James won't be back, although it has been rumored that he was potentially making his appearance. The expectation is that LeBron's not to be back until maybe possibly the end of the seasons, last week, those last 3 games in which they're scheduled to play. as he continues to recover from a tendon injury in his right foot. Uh, what he says that he's working out diligently and hard. He is going, getting it in. But there's not to be said he's not supposed to make a appearance possibly till that late time frame. But like I said, the team has been built to be able to withstand and play games for the most part. What we understand, what we see is that of course Anthony Davis is what drives that engine currently. If Anthony Davis is playing and being effective, then you probably got a good chance of the rest of the team playing and being effective to be able to make up the difference. Although they have lost a game or two with him uh, in that, but they are more so successful than they are the not when Anthony Davis plays, as long as LeBron is out and with their new squad. Additionally, the other side of the hall in crypto.com arena, we all know Paul George went down the other day with a knee issue in which George's knee is supposedly just a sprain, in which does not require any type of surgery. So with that being said, the expectation is a possibility of getting George back during the playoff run, not to miss the whole thing, in which I think is a good thing. Of course, we already know they brought in Russell Westbrook to assist in that, so he was already there. So it shouldn't be a problem for the most part, especially when he scored 27 points last to help out Kawhi Leonard. So that tandem is probably expected to be the one that's going forth until they can get George back in at some point, or maybe not. Is all they got to do, because it's a little bit different. Because we know you're guaranteed 8 games currently in the playoffs. You're only guaranteed 4 games every so often, every so many games. And if you don't win those 4 games, well, you're guaranteed. You only guarantee 4 games. You can extend it to 7 games, possibly depending on how you're playing. And then you get a chance to do it all over again with another 4 game possibility the next day. So it's just depending on how that comes out to be. It could be a situation to where we don't see Paul George again the rest of the season, depending on how the team does when he's healed and ready to get back on the court. What else? What else? So I asked a question: how many out there would have liked to have the opportunity to play for your father, who was a NBA All Star and champion? He was a game changer in the sense when he was a player himself, as early as college. Uh, Goes on to compete in the NBA, goes on to win a couple of all-star votes into that beloved game, goes on to be a two-time NBA champion, then goes back to said alma mater when he made so many changes to be the head coach, and at some point gets you and your brother who get to play for him and prepare you for a pro championship, a pro career yourself. How many would that be had been the dream of, or would be the dream with your son, your current offspring? That is currently the life of Jawan Howard's son, Jet Howard, as he is expected. He has made claim that he is going to go into the NBA draft this year. Jet Howard played as a 6'8" combo guard in the Michigan offense, in which initially he was not expected to be a uh, a top round draft pick. He got into the he was even top he was even in the top 40 for high school players this past year, going into college. But he has parlayed his skills into an opportunity to where he is now looking at going into the NBA. Just a one and done player, expected to be a top 10 pick in this year's upcoming draft. Of course, like I'm very sure it helps to have the pedigree of your father who was a player, all the friends and everything that come. You'd be crazy. What'd you say? Fast. I mean, Mookie. It does. It really does. if done correctly, that is a key point that you said, Brandon. If done correctly, that will be that would be great. It would be a great situation, generational wealth, as you have moved on and you continue to build that legacy. Hopefully, and getting supporting, and giving the same thing in which your father gave you. Uh, so yes, and that is, like I said, that's the story of the Howards. Juwan Howard, as we all know, played at University of Michigan in college, a member of the Fab Five, as we all know them: Chris Webber, Rose, King, Jackson, and Howard, uh, in which goes on to win 2 championships with the Miami Heat during the Big Three era, their Big Three era, and then goes back and was chosen to lead his alma mater as head coach last year, taking them to the Elite Eight. This year they're in the NIT, but his son, basically Jet, has been touted to be a 10th. He up to lottery pick. Basically, he's expected to possibly be a lottery pick, which is good. You got to think he's 6'8" as a guard. Uh, he's a bucket. He can get the bucket, so that could be a benefit. We'll see how it comes out in state. If he's going to be a touted player, if he's going to be picked up, or is he going to be just we all know in the NBA you only get 2 rounds to make it happen. If you don't make it happen in 2 rounds, you become a free agent, and then you have the option to go with whomever you want to make your situation better potentially. Uh, in other news, of course, we tend to get on and speak and talk about officiating. So he does not. I think it's like different, Coach. So, like you said, he's a bucket. His first debut as a senior. I mean, as a freshman, his first debut as a freshman with Michigan, he drops 21 points. No one was checking for him like that. He drops 21 points. It goes on to be their top scorer. Of course, he sustained an injury during the Big Ten championship series. He has problems with his ankles, so the expectation is that he needed to sit out and not play the rest of the season, rest of the tournament, as well as in the NIT, so he can become 100% because he's on the cusp of going into the league. So I think he's been sitting out. I haven't looked to see what's going on in the NIT to see if Michigan is still even alive or what's going on, but he's been sitting out. He hasn't played, I don't think. So he may not have two different sets. His dad was a big. He's just a big guard. So, but I mean, like we said, I think lately what we're seeing is, and for whatever reason, of course, y'all tap in. Feel free to speak about it. We've seen more so a lot of situations to where the children are better than the version of their father when it comes to basketball, particularly. When you think about it, Jabari Smith better than his dad. Steph Curry better than his dad. Okay, Ewan was eliminated by Vandy. So yeah, so it's so that, and then maybe that could have been it. The lack of Jet could have been lack of Jet. And then not even who gets overtook is he has a brother, I think Jace, as well, that's at Michigan with him. So definitely a difference. But again, saying players have the last couple of father son tandems, players have been better than their father. Of course, that doesn't bode well when you see greats. Of course, we see what happened when Michael Jordan's children. I don't even think any of them made it to the league. Um, LeBron's kids. Uh, Correct. I'll give you that. It is. Those are opposites. But when you look at it, Gary Payton, he's better than his son. Glenn Robinson, yes, he is better than him. Hardaway is better than his son. Tim Hardaway is better than his son and Junior. But when you look at, like I said, the last couple of ones that when we take a look at, Jabari Smith, Steph Curry, hell, it would probably, well, no, I was about to say it would probably even be to say Seth Curry, but that remains to be seen. Not so much for Austin, but uh, it's something that's out there that's definitely better than their fathers, and so this could be that same thing with Jet uh, moving into. I don't know, Domantas Sabonis. Would you say that Domantas Sabonis is better than his dad? Mm, don't know. Um, but there's some out there. Of course, there's some that eclipse that fact. Like you said, Tim Hardaway, Glenn Robinson. Uh, was is Jeremy Grant better than his father, Horace, or Jerry, or which father? Which one is his father? But anyway, is the Grant? So it's out there. It's I guess it could be subjective, but there's clearly some that are Gary Payton, of course, being one of them. Glenn Robinson, as Brandon said, Tim Hardaway, of course. Um, Yeah, his father was a beast. It might be a little early, too early to sit up and have that conversation. Although I think the bonus Sabonis is pretty good. And we was just talking about last night. I don't know if y'all caught the Best of Seven podcast in which I tapped in last night with him, and that was a question in which his depiction is that the in the NBA is maybe potentially possibly pushing the narrative of the foreign players and putting them ahead. When you look at it, 4 consecutive, potentially 5 consecutive years, the NBA top award, regular season award, is going to a foreign player. You had 2 years consecutive with Giannis. We're looking at potentially 3 years consecutively with Jokic. If not Jokic, the next two in line is Giannis Antetokounmpo or Joel Embiid. Not to mention, at least 2 of the years, Joel Embiid has been the runner-up. So the ideal that which me and Seven was talking about, and Seven was coming close, basically stating, is that the NBA seems to be placing the European players or the overseas, the foreign players in the league in front of the line when it comes to uh trying to give them trying to grow that global brand. In which is that a possibility, or are these players do these players actually have that skill level? When we look at some of the top players, we talk about Domantas Sabonis, Joel Embiid, who is actually dual citizen, um, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, um, Giannis Antetokounmpo. You start to dial it back. You got the Wagner brothers in Orlando who seem to get it. Um, who else we got? Jonas Montunis, we just talked about, who seems to be having problems, giving problems, causing problems. Uh, Pascal Siakam. You got players that are in from Canada as well that get it in. I think who's a Canadian player? But of course, some of them have dual citizenships as well. So there's a few players out there that can go and that really can be a problem uh, for the U.S. in the sense of they actually really do deserve what it is that they're the accolades in which they're receiving. But it could be, just like you said, speculatively be that they are being put in the front of the line for the most part when it comes down to what the NBA and their and what they're trying to do to grow a global brand. What else do we have in the NBA that also went down? So I was getting ready to get into it. The Currys. I was getting ready to get into it just in reference to uh, the conversation of going back to what happened, of course, in the wake of one of the games just this past just the other night. So there was a few complaints by a particular coach we'll call this coach uh, Monty. There was a complaint because what it felt like Monty felt like is that there was a huge disparity between the calls being made versus his team. The disparity has spanned across a couple of games from his determination, in which his squad, the Phoenix Suns, has not been getting the fair calls. Just the other night, in what was a 122 to 111 loss by the Suns to the Los Angeles Lakers, the Lakers received 46 foul calls, sending them to the line 46 times, in which the Phoenix Suns only received 20. A huge disparity from what he said. Over the course of two games, he stated that the Phoenix Suns have received a total of 31 foul calls over the course of two games. And we just said 20 of those came versus the Lakers. So I asked this question. Do we potentially have situations to where refs tend to blow the whistle more so for a particular team than they do another team over the course of the game? Are we saying that the refs have integrity problems? Are we saying that the refs are curving the games or trying to help out teams in certain situations? Is that or is that not what that sounds like? Or is it just happen to be that? Of course, Chris Paul and both Devin Booker sat and spoke in reference to the situation in which both of them said they sit and watch the games when they are not playing, and they say they get it, they understand, they see it. They feel like they're being called for the same things in which other players aren't being called for, whether it's bumps, reaching, and taking the field attempts at steals, in which they're getting called for what Mr. Williams said, ticky tack fouls, and things of that nature. We already know currently there was a referee that was delegated down because it was said that he did or was making bad calls, in which Fred VanVleet of the Toronto Raptors was very boisterous and voiceful about his situation and what he felt like were bad calls. So it brings up a situation. So the calls are the calls in state, right? Rules are rules, calls are calls. If a official is making said call, right? Are they wrong? If I am officiating and if I see what is a foul and I make the call on the foul, each time it's fouled and I make that call, am I wrong? Am I not upholding the sanctity of the game by making said calls? If I sit up and call a travel call every time you start to walk without putting the ball on the floor, if I call a travel call every time you proceed to do a gather and looks like you take more than one step or a hop step or the wrong type of hop step and all that type of stuff, and I call a foul, call traveling, am I wrong for putting forth and upholding the sanctity of the rule book in which the game is built upon? Am I wrong? So I ask, are these officials wrong for doing what they're paid to do? Or are they supposed to basically, of course, I'm very sure the league goes forth and puts out what is to be watched out and looked at and what we want to put emphasis on this year. And then everything else is okay as need basis. From Fred VanVleet's standpoint, the other day, reading his comments, he basically talked about how he thinks that they should let him play and they shouldn't be making these calls. And I thought to myself, are these officials wrong for making these calls? Whether it's a ticky tack foul, travels, um, double dribbles, uh, any of that, are they wrong? I don't think they are. I think it's just starting to be a little. I think they're starting to get a little out of control. First and foremost, I think they need to police up the angles and everything in which they're going, or maybe the league needs to police up what they're put the emphasis on. Then we go and police the players, and then the officials secondly, because the officials are doing what it is they're paid to do. Players are doing what they do, what they're paid to do and perform. But there's parameters to when you're performing, which are within the rules. James Harden figured out a way to get around the rules with the perfecting his step back after the gather, even though he crossed the line a couple of times. But for more and more so, people realized that it was a benefit to be able to utilize it, and they started doing it. Okay, Brandon, I can agree with that, Brandon. Consistency of the call. I can get with that. That is the only thing wrong is the consistency, and which I mean, but you're not like truthfully, you're not going to get it because in state is when it comes to it, the player. I mean, the official. Of course, if you have some veteran officials that are known to do certain things, then that's what you're going to get. They're going to have some that's not going to make that call. Some are going to make the call, especially against his like quote unquote the superstar. Are going to get the call, are not going to get the call, are going to get the benefit of the doubt. And then you will have someone that is a lesser known player or something like that commit the same egregious offense, and they get the whistle get blown. And then you sitting there wondering, like, yo, I just seen my man. I just did the exact step, the exact same move as this dude. And this is what you get. This is what I get. I get whistle for it. Exact same move. And so that's where you go in with the consistency starts to come apart because you have some officials, different crews that are doing different things that's making these calls on certain stars. Excuse me, on certain stars, and so that's where we start to go awry. So it really is not. It's not even any way of particularly doing the consistency unless the NBA is going to really draw a hard line on the fact of these officials standing firm across the board and making their calls, regardless of who it is and who it isn't. That is the only way it's going to happen. I think you have too many officials that are particularly liked or not liked by the officials. You know, they talked about last night. The other night, they called a clip of D'Angelo Russell talk about the fact that they got Foster and he was officiating and basically saying, "Hey, y'all know we got Foster. Y'all, we got Foster. See Foster." So, is it good or good? Is it not good to sit up and be a player, official that's recognized by the players, good, bad, or different? Um, Tier one and then just stars. Tier two, I believe they should get the calls. Tier one players receive. So I ask you this, Brandon, and anyone else out there. And I asked this last night on the Best of Seven podcast with Seven Mitchell. What constitute a superstar? Although we did go over briefly last night, person put butts in seats. But what constitutes a superstar and a star? What differentiates a star from a superstar? In this day and age, you have stars, you have superstars, but some of those superstars are only superstars because they are linked up with other players that afford them the opportunity to become that person. In state, in the NBA, all 450 players are able to put the ball in the hoop in some way, form, or fashion. They are able to get a bucket. They might not all be walking buckets, but if given the opportunity, if you sit up and allow me to score, if I'm open, I'm sure if I'm open more than not, I'm sure if you put the ball in my hand, I'm going to be able to score double figures consistently throughout the night. Some are able to do it a little more than others because they work at their craft a little bit more. But in state, all 450 players plus can put a ball in the hole. What constitutes, in your opinion, Brandon, or anyone else from what he says, the tier one player, tier two players? Tier one, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, Ja Morant, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, um, Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Jason Brown, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Like, who are we considering to be tier one superstars? And then the tier two all star. Klay Thompson, Jimmy Butler. Is James Harden a star, all star, or a superstar? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, an all star or a superstar? Mark Markkanen, an all star or a superstar? Darren Fox, all star, superstar. CJ McCollum, all star, superstar. Brandon Ingram, all star, superstar. Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, all stars or superstars. What constitutes that all star, superstar, tier one, tier two status? I guess on down to whatever the tiers will lay. That's just a question. Just wondering. Uh, Additionally, well, I guess we didn't get to talk about the other day. Welcome back to, we did. Karl-Anthony Towns, as he's back in the fold in Minnesota. Is that going to make a difference? That goes to them too. Anthony Edwards and now Karl-Anthony Towns, all stars or superstars. So it's just some questions. Food for thought. We ain't necessarily got up for it now. I'm very sure it'll come up again because I continue to think about it. So it definitely come up again. But just some things to keep in mind. Also, some things we talked about on the Best of Seven last night. Jaylen Brown, what's debacle or potential debacle happening with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, as it was come out and rumored that there was a potential for Jaylen Brown to be shopped to the Brooklyn Nets in with the trade for Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum's homie. So it was rumored, or it has been speculated, that Jaylen Brown called both Brad Stevens, the GM or basketball operations, and Jason Tatum on three-way to ask how valid or the validity of this situation. So one of the questions in which my brother Seven asked is, do I believe that there's a lack of trust now between the two stars in Boston? I just looked at it as Jaylen Brown was just trying to check the temperature. Like, yo, I'm trying to find out, is this true? Is this what y'all doing behind closed doors and trying to shut me off? In receiving that information, that is it puts me in a position to know how I need to handle you. I don't need you coming to my crib. We ain't got nothing to say or do unless it's on this court. Like, what's good? That's how I look at the situation. Because in state is, we know it all happens. It's a part of the business, in which sometimes you have to do a little more than that. In state, LeBron James, when you think about it, LeBron James is a Laker. But rest assured, if there was a deal out there that was going to bring in something, when you look at there's a aging LeBron James, because Father Time is undefeated, to the Lakers, that they're going to pull the trigger and send them. They're going to throw loyalty out the door. Yes, you signed with us for additional extended us for 2 years, $50 million, but that's that Kobe stuff. Kobe did the same thing. So when you put it in perspective, put in that type of look at it, it's a business. Things have to happen in business, and your ideal is to make your business the biggest and brightest that you can, because ultimately that brings in more revenue monetarily, for the most part. So you just gotta look at it. So I'm very sure Jaylen Brown wasn't mad about that, but I can see if he's mad because he's like, "Are y'all trying? This is what y'all trying to do? At least come to me and tell me, hey, Trey, we're looking at bringing in so and so, and then with doing this, we're going to have to possibly look at moving you. Just want you to know and hear it from here first, So if it does come out, we'll give you as much more as we can, so you can kind of like mentally prepare and don't have to worry about hearing it from other resources. I can respect that. Not like they did DeMar DeRozan, where he was saying, "No, we're not going to trade you," and then he looks up, he's chilling in his with his fam at checking out a movie, and then he gets a text message to get blown up to sit up and find out that he was traded from the Toronto Raptors to the San Antonio Spurs from Kawhi Leonard, who ended up that year Toronto goes and wins the NBA championship that year over the Golden State Warriors. Or you couldn't have done that with me? That couldn't have been us with me? Just some food for thought. Let me see what else we got before we get up out of here. So, I guess there has been a couple of issues when we look at the fact of the conversation with Lamar Jackson and his pending possible um, exit from the Baltimore Ravens. So the NFL had to go forth and remind the teams to only engage and negotiate with Lamar Jackson. As we all know, Lamar Jackson does not have an agent or agency representation. He represents himself. So in that, people have to engage with him in part to negotiating. They do not negotiate with the team, the Baltimore Ravens, because that's not his representation. They negotiate with Lamar so they can find out what it is that he's looking to get, and then of course it goes back door into the with Baltimore in terms to see if they are willing to pay said price. So they have to basically right that ship and make sure they understand that only negotiate with Lamar Jackson. He is a representation. That is the only person you need to speak to. Interesting turn of events. A couple of names have came forth in which are looking to potentially bring in Ezekiel Elliott, as we all know, was released by the Dallas Cowboys, the Cincinnati Bengals, the New York Jets, and even the Philadelphia Eagles, as they would look to replace the loss of Miles Sanders in their room. I don't know how Ezekiel Elliott fits in with the Eagles. I think he would be more of a problem with the Bengals. But I mean, in any case, it depends on what Zeke you're getting. Do you get the Zeke that got him paid, or do you get the Zeke that got him release? Would y'all want Ezekiel Elliott? They understand? Because y'all got Miles Sanders. Although that might be a little punch, a 1-2 punch. Uh, Miles Sanders. I mean, y'all, and I forgot who else. Y'all got somebody else. I can't think of it. Because I think y'all lost out on Deontay Freeman left, but I could have sworn it was someone there at the Deontay. But I don't know. Would that be would you want to be on that list? Which list you talking about? The Zeke list? Oh, need a feel for seeing him. I don't think any of them would be. I think Miles Sanders is closest you're gonna get to a fill-in for Christian McCaffrey. But I mean Zeke. I mean he might, like I said, maybe Zeke had to do something to like get. Okay, Elliot, you are talking about. I think maybe Zeke just had to do something. Maybe it was time for a different change of scenery, and I guess that happens sometimes. You got to get a different change of scenery to kind of like recommit and get back into there. So, excuse me. Yes, that would be a 1-2 punch. Sanders and Elliott, running back by committee. I don't know. We have it possibly. Um, Tom Brady, in his post career, has decided to become a minority owner in a WNBA team. I guess it's only right that a champion in the caliber of Tom Brady goes and connects his caboose to the championship caliber winning of the Las Vegas Aces, as he has become a minority owner with the Aces, uh, putting in some couple of investing. I'm pretty sure it's a good investment. Of course, when you have Candace Parker, Kelsey Plum, Aja Wilson, all under the same roof with the opportunity to add more. You're in Las Vegas. It just seems right. If I had the money to invest, I probably would invest in Lake Aces too. Shout out to my Los Angeles Sparks. I'd be an Ace investor, but a Los Angeles Sparks fan. That's exactly what I do. Of course, we know the committees tend to meet during the off season. Competition committees, that is, rules changes is all the things that always comes up. Of course, we know some rules being looked at for this upcoming year is the push, something that made the Philadelphia Eagles offense on short yardage almost unstoppable for the most part. 40 conversions of third and two and less with the Philadelphia Eagles. They decided to probably take a look at that to see how they could do that, but change that. Additionally, um, they have 15 total proposed rules tweaks, which a lot of them, or at least 5 of them, are tied to changing or resituating the replay, what goes on with the replay. In which I don't know if that could be done. Like, it's like some of it is like it's so many things that I think in the NFL that has to be changed or has to be fixed when it comes down to the rules. Because at this point, I look at how I grew up and what I played, and then how I played, and I knew what was and what wasn't a catch, or in terms was considered a catch or anything like that. If the ball hit the ground at some point in the initial part, we considered it down. We wasn't arguing over it. Now you got to sit up and make a football move. Then you got to determine what is considered a football move. It's just too much that's going on. Now they're proposing a rule that would spot the kickoff fair catch at the 24-yard line. When do people make fair catches? Only if they're in the end zone, I think, if I'm correct, or they take a knee touchback. Why is it now that the ball is being taken to the 25-yard line as opposed to the 20-yard line? 5.5 is the difference. If it's kicked out of bounds, it goes to the 25-yard line. I get it. Is it trying to set the table to where that's all the same? I don't know. A whole bunch of different things to be talking about, in which I think we'll do a little bit more of a breakdown, as well as that coming to breakdown in reference to the upcoming draft. As we know, that's coming into fruition soon. A couple more of breakdowns to who is going where and what's the latest. Of course, we know there's still players out there. Wagner is still out there. Odell Beckham is still out there. So there's more to talk about. But I won't go ahead and get over and slide off here, as you know, so I can continue to prep. If you don't know already, be on the lookout, because on Sunday, another special show on Sunday. Sunday, we will be going forth and having the National Military Basketball Tournament Selection Sunday show here on First Formation on Sunday. That'll be at 1800 Central Standard Time. So you'll be able to tap in and see. It might have been a little leak out there, but you'll be able to tap in and see who has been invited and what region they would be considered on, what would be their pool, and who they would potentially be facing to garner a situation to where they're going to be put in position to play in the one and done single elimination tournament going forward. So of course you have myself, Bishop Richardson, and probably some coaches that'll be on talking about that. Maybe some of the committee to talk about it from their selection committee that went forth and put together the squads and teams. So that should be a whole vibe. So be sure to tune in with us 1800 Central Standard Time on Sunday as we go over that NMBT roster. As you all know, other things that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. The Military Basketball Association will be moving into their conference final playoffs to determine who is going to be able to pull up in the city of Missouri, or is it Kansas? In that area, in that region, as they look to play their conference their championships in the coming weeks. That's Memorial Day weekend, so that's going down, and then we double back just 2 months later as we tap into the AAU men's and women's Battle of the Crest Championship. Tournament uh in July in Orlando as they get ready to do that. As we know, it's an open tournament. If you have a CAT card and you're former military with CAT card access, you'll be able to come and run, get your squads, put them together, 325 a team to get the bragging rights for the year. Who is big and bad enough to compete? All the talking. I know all the teams is probably in the back rooms getting talked about. So who's pulling up? Who's pulling up? I might have to talk to Bishop or something. Maybe we can do something. So of course that's what we're looking for. Be sure to tap in and see what it is and how it's going down. Men and women. You got a men's team, a women's team. If y'all trying to run, get it together. Tap in, man. It's all about, if y'all need connections on who to talk to get your squad in, feel free to hit me up. Y'all know what it is. Until then, it's the weekend. Look forward to seeing y'all on Monday morning. So of course you got some things to do so I can go pay some bills. Correction, Sunday morning. First, Sunday afternoon, then Monday morning. And I'll holler at y'all. It's your boy Trey. I look forward to speaking to y'all Sunday, Monday, and all next week. Greatly appreciate y'all rocking with this morning. Enjoy your weekend. I'm out.